Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the most expensive beer I've ever bought. That's right, this is easily the most expensive beer I've ever bought. Not necessarily in pounds spent, but certainly per pint, not including postage. This beer cost basically 33 quid a pint. 33 quid a pint. And that is... well, it's extravagance, really. It's only a 330ml bottle. It's horrendously expensive. And what's even worse is if you look behind me, there's another one. There is a reason for this, and I'll go into it in a minute. But first, let's introduce it properly. This is from Innis Gunn in Scotland. It's their Islay Whisky Cask Ale. It's a Scotch ale, and it's conditioned in Laphroaig single malt whiskey barrels, which explains some of the expense, but let's be honest, lots of breweries put beer in whiskey barrels to age them for a bit, so why is this one so much more? Well, actually, that price I've given you is significantly above and beyond what the recommended retail price was when this came out. I think it was last year before. To be honest, I paid about 3 times over the odds, and that's because it was a limited run. And I did want to try it, but I also thought it was a nice little bit of a crossover between what I've been doing in the form of craft beer and what I want to start doing, which is introducing some more whiskey content to the channel. And this is, well, obviously the perfect combination of the two. Props to Slice UK, who made me aware of this. He didn't buy it and send it me, unfortunately. That would have been a bit too nice of him. But he made me aware of it, and I was like, I can't resist. Now, you're saying that's all well and good, Tom. You spent a lot of money on one bottle, but why on earth did you get that second one? Well, hear me out. So, this is now available on a website called Old and Rare Whisky for what I paid for it, which was 18 quid a bottle-ish, not including postage, which is horrific, I know. But on a website called The Whisky Auctioneer, which sells bottles of old whiskey, I think you can list your own for sale. It's like eBay, but for old booze, basically. And 2 bottles of these recently sold on there for 250 quid. I can only assume that the reason that is the case is because, well, these bottles became not available, sold for 250 quid, and then the Old and Rare shop managed to find a small batch of them to sell on. So if I were you, I was going to say to you, my advice would be to consider doing this, but actually it's not. My advice is to not do it, because if everyone does it to sell, then mine's going to be worth less. So I'm hoping in the next year or so to sell that bottle on and at least make back what I had to spend on this. But it may not work out. In the worst case, I hopefully end up with 2 very nice bottles of beer, which we now need to get onto. We need to find out, is this beer any good? As you can see, it comes in this beautiful display box we'll look at more in a minute. It's a 7.4% Whisky Cask Scotch Ale with a shed load of information on the back, so we'll go into all that shortly. But yeah, let's take a look at the niceties. So first up, let's get it out of the box. This box is beautifully crafted and put together, but unfortunately it is still just a cardboard box, which makes the price even more awkward. But let's get it out here. So, standard Innis Gunn 330ml bottle. I mean, it's a nice looking bottle, but not quite that nice. Let me sit that down for a moment. First up, before we look at that, let's take a quick look at the box itself. Now, an artist was commissioned to make this, and I'll tell you a bit more about that shortly once we've got into the beer. But yeah, it's nice, you know, very, very reminiscent of the Scottish Highlands, Islands, and coastline there. You get the idea. So yeah, nice looking bottle, load of info on the back, as you can probably see, and then the bottle itself. Well, it's Innis Gunn presents Islay Whisky Cask. They've changed the name slightly from the back. Oh no, I haven't. Sorry, it was Islay Whisky Cask Ale on the back. Just Islay Whisky Cask on the bottle. So the name's not completely consistent throughout this beer, but you get the idea. Fairly standard looking label, but will it be worth the cost? Let's find out, shall we? Here it goes. A not insignificant amount of money is now no longer going to be available to me in return for this beer. I think we can all sigh a sigh of relief for the fact that this didn't explode. It wasn't just a carbonation bomb, because that would have been truly horrific. The aroma, when I opened that, was rich, full of slightly peat smoky, rich, just whiskey goodness, I think is the best way to describe it. Let's get it into a glass. I am going to use my big craft glass from Twisted Hops that I got recently, because this really is the best thing for getting aromas off a beer. And, well, when it costs that much, I think we're going to have to do it, aren't we? So let's get it in. I am getting every drop of this. The aromas really are quite spectacular, even at a distance. In the glass, then, pretty much as dark as you like. It's definitely red though, rather than black. If you hold it up to if you hold it into the distance, then you could be convinced it's a stout because it's that dark. But when I hold it up to the light, you probably won't be able to see this. But there is a lot of kind of red and brown hues at the bottom of the glass, but also all the way up. To be honest, it's dark, but only without any light source, if that makes sense. Otherwise, it's it's definitely a ready Scotch ale. The head's dissipated, but it's 7.4%, so that's not too much of a surprise. Aromas. Oh wow! I mean, it smells like whiskey. There's no getting away from that. It's not. It's not usual beer aromas. It's deep, smoky, peaty, bit charcoaly. I don't know if I've been watching too many whiskey reviews recently, but it's almost got a bit of a sea salt brine kind of aroma to it, and possibly ever so slightly sulphury as well. It's undeniably Scotch. There's no real beer notes left in it. I feel like in the depths of here, there's a bit of caramel and berry screaming, trying to get out from the natural Scotch ale flavours, but ultimately, at the moment, they are just being quashed by all the overpowering tones of that whiskey barrel. There is a saltiness to it, absolutely, definitely a savoury, salty, briny thing there. Very interesting. Be really curious how this is going to taste. So let's find out. Cheers. Oh, it is good. It is good. Wow. Okay. I know I paid over the odds for this, and price is always going to be the main talking point of this review, because it was silly, basically. It was silly, but I felt like it was worth doing. But at the original RRP, it was about £6 or £7. And was it worth that? Because that's what we can really ask, because, that's what they charged for it. Yes, it is. Absolutely, hands down. £6 or £7, that was more than worth it. It's got, there's just huge flavour in there. Huge flavour. Let's do a top to bottom taste test before I get a bit carried away. So, initially, quite muted up front, actually. Slightly savoury, with a hint of woodiness, oak. The actual barrel itself, almost, it's right there at the front. Next up, you get some sweeter notes. That's where I guess the actual Scotch ale in this really comes to the front. Slightly caramelly, but not really. It's just a tip of the hat to Scotch ale rather than the full flavour profile. You get quite a clean break at the back of the tongue. It's not as thick or viscous as Scotch ale often is, and actually, let's be honest, it's quite a thin beer. It's not quite got the mouthfeel I was hoping for from something of this price and this caliber. This is meant to be a showpiece, and it's a little bit washy in terms of consistency and thickness of the beer, not in flavour, because you get a clean break, and that really just makes you aware of the slightly disappointing mouthfeel. But then you soon forget, because you get a crash of huge amounts of what I call typical Scotch single malt, smoky peat smoke, heavily peated whiskey flavour. I've said all the same words over and over again, but it's kind of relevant because that's how intense it is. It's like having a big old mouthful of Scotch, but you get none of the alcohol burn. You get none of the kind of extreme unpleasantries, despite having all of the flavour, which is quite bizarre. And it's actually very enjoyable. It's hugely smoky, hugely fiery, and at the end you get a bit of that briny, slightly clean, almost verging on antiseptic, with a bit of saline, sea salt, salt spray, that kind of thing. I'll be honest, it's fantastic. The flavour profile is incredible. It's absolutely worth the money they charge for it. Is it worth 18 quid to go and enjoy? No. But I also don't feel absolutely stupid, because it is an absolute taste experience that you're not going to get from anyone else. Plenty of people have put beer into whiskey casks, both American whiskey, bourbon, and Scotch whiskey barrels, but that freshness and intensity of the Laphroaig cask, you're not going to get that anywhere else. And I feel like Laphroaig is going to be a Scotch that, if I ever get to in this channel, I'm probably not going to enjoy that much as its raw form. It's kind of theoretically everything I don't like about Scotch whiskey, but putting it into this has actually allowed me to really appreciate a lot of its key flavours without the negative experience that I think I'd get with it, which is just is a plus for me, even if it's not for anyone else. Right then, I think that's enough about the flavour of the beer. Let's have a look at first what it says on the bottle, and then, more importantly, on the box. On the front then, Innis Gunn presents Islay Whisky Cask, matured in Laphroaig Islay single malt whisky casks, amber Scotch ale, 330ml. You've got the master brewer's signature, 7.4% ABV, a limited edition. And on the back it says, this beer has been slowly and lovingly matured in the world-famous Laphroaig Islay single malt whisky casks, absorbing all the deep flavours from these special casks: spicy wood smoke and peat, sea salt and burnt toffee. Okay, I didn't really get the burnt toffee, other than kind of the bit of caramel that I'd normally associate with Scotch ale, but maybe that's where it was from. It says the beer adds its own rich roasted flavour to create something as unforgettable and uncompromising as the island which inspired it. It's got Innis Gunn's address in Edinburgh, again 7.4%, 330ml bottle, and the ingredients are water, malted barley, hops, and yeast. It's a straight shooter. There's nothing else in here other than having been matured in that environment. On the back of the box then, which has even more information, the front has everything we've already talked about. The back, however, says Islay, a rugged wild isle that's famed for its dramatic landscape and uncompromising single malt whisky, where rich peated earth and sea spray in the air and centuries of craftsmanship all infuse the whisky with the distinctive complex flavours, and there a few whiskies are more complex and more emphatic than the Laphroaig Islay single malt whisky. It's in their 10-year-old original cask strength casks that we have slowly matured an Innis Gunn beer that is just as bold and as extraordinary, absorbing all the deep flavours from the oak, spicy wood smoke, peat, sea salt and burnt toffee. The beer adds its own rich roasted flavour to create something as unforgettable as the island which inspired it. To frame this unique collaboration between two of Scotland's most celebrated producers, we have commissioned renowned Scottish artist Hope Blemere, I hope I'm saying that right, Hope Blamere, to create a one-off design. Hope is continually drawn to the west coast of Scotland, its rugged seascapes, white sand beaches and sparkling waters providing constant inspiration. This specially commissioned artwork truly evokes the atmosphere of Islay, crashing waves, salt spray, brooding skies, and provides the perfect backdrop to the exceptional beer inside. For more information, go to innisgunn.com/beers. And that really is everything that isn't already duplicated or already talked about. Now, if you do want to know more about this beer, that more information is available on Innis Gunn's website. I'll kick through a few of the key points without reading out absolutely everything. It goes on to say what we already know about it being a 7.4% amber ale, slowly matured in Laphroaig 10-year-old single malt whiskey casks. It's done though for 12 weeks, which is not information I don't think that it gave us on the box or on the bottle. It gives all the flavour notes that we already discussed about that it comes in the striking gift box, which is very nice, but is still just a cardboard gift box. I would have liked maybe something a little bit more. There is a quote, however, from the founder of Innis Gunn that says, "Islay Whisky Cask truly evokes the island that inspires both our brew and the iconic Laphroaig. The rich peated earth and Islay terroir," which is a word that I've never used before, Terroir. I assume that just means environment. It infused the whisky with its distinctive, complex flavours that we sought to capture in this bold limited edition brew. The result is evident even before you take your first sip. As you open the bottle, you're welcomed with a distinctly peaty, complex aroma that defines Laphroaig. And there we have it. I don't have a great deal more to say about this. It's already been quite a long video, but it was kind of justified with given what is in front of us. I'm even more excited now for the continuation of my whisky journey, given what this has had to show. And I think I would like to see some more whisky matured beers on the market. There are quite a few, but I mean, there's always space for a few more. So hopefully that does come to fruition. And that really is it. So what do you reckon? Do you reckon it's worth it? Do you reckon you'd buy one? What should I do with that other bottle? Do I hang on to it? Do I just accept that it's a good beer that I paid a little over the odds for and just enjoy it anyway? I'll certainly be keeping the bottle for this and the little collector's box to put on the shelf behind me for the future, regardless of whatever happens to the other bottle. But yeah, that is really everything. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you'll be so kind. And I'll catch you next time. Cheers.